Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. This is Ian with Out of This World Reader, and today I've got another book to discuss with you today and give you my little spiel about it. And that is the highly praised The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. So I just put the book up there so I don't fling it everywhere when I'm talking. But when I first came across this book, like on BookTube, like a couple months ago, I just remember like them kind of discussing how kind of whimsical and transportive it really is. And what I was really drawn to was how similar it sounded to Piranesi, which I read quite a few months ago. It was somewhat similar in the fact that Piranesi takes place in kind of this labyrinth that has all these marble statues and kind of works of art and stuff like that, similar to the Starless Sea, how this is kind of like an underground like a labyrinth of a library of some sort, like hidden in the earth, and there's just these vast amounts, collections of books and art, and so it was so similar to Piranesi in that sort of aspect, which is what drew me to it. But I think the main reason that I was drawn to it was just the praise for the book and the author. She's also wrote The Night Circus, which is another one that I've heard several great things about, and then I've heard that it's not very good as well. But from what I've heard, if you like this one, then you like The Night Circus as well. But I'm just going to quickly give you my thoughts on it. And similar to the review I did of Lore, I'll kind of give you my thoughts prior to reading the book, which kind of I guess I already have. I basically just spilled that out, but now I guess I'll go into my thoughts about just the book in general, and then maybe at the end we'll go over a little bit of spoilers. I'm just not sure yet. And I just want to quickly apologize if the lighting is bad. I think another snowstorm is moving in, so we'll see about that. That's kind of why I got my parrot tropical shirt on, because I'm already tired of winter, even though I kind of, in my TBR, I was hoping for snow so I could get to like The Shining and Spinning Silver, but now that it's finally here, I don't know if I want it to be here. So like those other booktubers said, this story is truly whimsical and transportive. I felt as soon as I kind of picked it up, I was immediately transported to just the harbor or the initial college setting that it takes place in. And I think the reason of that is because of how descriptive the writing is and how it really goes into depth of just describing these scenes. So I guess I would suggest that if you're not into kind of just books going really in depth into kind of descriptions and just breaking everything down, that I would maybe steer clear for this, but I would still give it a try and just see how it goes from there. Like I mentioned, this initially takes place at a college where Zachary finds a book that kind of describes an event that happened back in his childhood when he discovered a door, but he didn't open that door, and the book kind of describes that for him, and he basically just goes on a hunt to kind of just discover what this mysterious labyrinth of the harbor is. And from there, just the plot just unfolds, and you're just introduced to new characters, and it just breaks down every single thing. And I just loved how it included that college setting, because I am indeed a college student and I always like that in a story. But once it moves into the harbor, I was just blown away by kind of just the descriptions of this mysterious place. Like, there seems like there was endless possibilities, like there was so many books to be read, like art just everywhere, like it seemed like it was endless. It almost reminded me a little bit of, like I said, Piranesi, but kind of like another version of, like the book version of Tomorrowland, if you've seen that Disney movie. I really enjoyed that movie. I don't know if a lot of other people have, but the fact that it's including just art and literature and cats. I am a cat person as well. I've got Izzy over here kind of doing her thing already, kind of jumping off walls. But the fact that it includes all these is just it's a chef's kiss. Like it's top notch. I really recommend it if you just are looking to get transported somewhere, especially in this time when we can't travel very much or we can't go out. We're stuck in the snow. This harbor is just so complex, and the kind of the characters that it finds to kind of keep it going. It's got like the keepers and the guardians, and there's just so many different aspects that just keep it going. And once this danger and or this conflict is kind of facing it, and Zachary kind of has to unfold the mystery of like what's going on, it just makes you kind of like delve more into the story a little bit more, if that makes sense. I feel like I say this with every book I read, but I definitely could see myself getting like one of the Guardian tattoos, but not like the sketchy kind that you'll read about in the book, but just like the true guardians who are essentially the protectors of the harbor. If you've read this book, please let me know what you would be, if you would be like a guardian or a seeker or a keeper or whatever else there is. Just let me know down in the comments below. I think since finishing this almost like a month ago, I've just been wondering like where the author Erin Morgenstern kind of got her motivation for this, like whether she kind of just came up with all this like on a whim, or if she kind of delved into kind of folklore and just different aspects of maybe mythology or anything. If you know anything where she got her motivations or inspiration, please let me know, because I was just curious as to where like this kind of came up with, because also in the story there's these littler kind of tales that kind of play out as the story kind of goes on and you learn more. But if I go more in depth, then it'll kind of spoil things a little bit. So I'm just interested I'm just kind of curious as to where she kind of got these inspirations from. Those are just kind of my brief thoughts on it. I know I didn't get much in depth with it, but I feel like since it's pretty popular, like you've probably already read it, I'm just way behind and I'm jumping on the bandwagon with it. But I'll make sure to leave it in the description box below so you can check it out if you really haven't read it. But I recommend you do, because it can really transport you. Like I feel like out of all the books I've read ever, maybe this is like one of the only ones that has really kind of transported me to just like another world. It seems like just travel, like just thinking of going to this harbor kind of relaxed me a little bit, especially during this kind of troubling time where things are uncertain and school is stressful. It's always nice to kind of just like escape to some place that you've always kind of dreamed about. Like the labyrinth or the harbor is something that you kind of just want to escape to. So now this is the point where we go over a little bit of spoilers. So if you don't want to hear anything about it, I'll make sure to kind of like include the timestamp where I'm done talking about spoilers. But let's just go over a couple things. To be honest, the ending was absolutely bonkers. Like the fact that the honey was the Starless Sea, and you kind of just figured out that it was actually kind of just like destroying the harbor and essentially kind of like restarting everything. I thought that was crazy, that like it was no more and it was basically like rebuilding itself from honey. Like you never think of that, like especially when I was younger, like reading the Winnie the Pooh and stuff like that. Like you just think like honey's supposed to be like not dangerous or anything, but like when Zachary and Dorian are kind of like drowning in honey, like that's kind of made me a little bit skeptical about like eating honey anymore. I did like though, however, how it was kind of restarting, and I'm not sure, like if you know, please let me know. But is it kind of like restarting at that kind of like school setting, like, or is it gonna kind of like take place back in the harbor? Maybe it's been so long since I've read this, so I don't know if I missed something at the end of the story. So if you know, let me know, please. Like I mentioned with like those little stories that kind of played out essentially as you kept reading, and they kind of gave you glimpses of the future and gave you pasts of characters kind of explaining more in depth the plot. I thought that was crazy that they kind of were all connected, and this was all like Zachary and Dorian and Maryville, and just they were all connected somehow, and that these stories that had already been wrote kind of had knew what was going to happen. I thought that was kind of crazy to just even think about. Like Erin Morgenstern definitely had to put in some time and thought to kind of like plan out the whole thing, just how it unfolded. There for a while I was a bit worried about kind of a happy ending, especially when Dorian just kind of like Dorian and Zachary finally meet back at like the Starless Sea, and Dorian was just like, "Yep, here's a sword in your chest," and like basically kills him. And then after that, it was like, what, like there's no happy ending anymore? Like the honey's destroying everything and Zachary's dead. Like what's the point of reading on? But then as like of course I kept reading on, but once it kept going, like you kind of just unfolded the mystery of kind of how it was supposed to happen and how it was planned out. So that was like, I was definitely worried there for a while, but thankfully it all worked out. They found a way, and now it's the harbor, or whatever it is now, is kind of rebuilding somewhere in the world, and we're all just waiting for this door to kind of invite us in. So I encourage everyone to seek out these doors and kind of escape to this place, because we all know currently with COVID and winter storms, we don't want to be here right now. I know this wasn't very in-depth, and I'm sorry for that. I had read this a while ago and I had forgot most of it, but when I took notes, I had a glass of water sitting right next to it, and Izzy knocked it down onto the notebook, and everything was kind of blurred out. So I've kind of been doing this winging it. So I'm kind of thankful that I got through it and hopefully gave you somewhat of a good review on it. But I just want to thank you for watching. This has been another episode of Book Chats with Ian. I hope to catch you on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you never miss out on another adventure. And as Ellie always says, adventure is out there. So I'll catch you next time.